Hi, welcome to the series where we'll be using Volume's Figma Creator Kit to create our own carousels on Volume. So those of you who don't know Volume is a platform to make visual and interactive publications. And in this series, we have created a Figma kit to allow any non-designer to easily create beautiful carousels. So my name is Jonah, and let's get started with this tutorial. So first and foremost, let's get started by installing Figma. You can find Figma at figma.com/downloads. Figma is a free tool for designing. You can get it on Mac OS and on Windows as an installable application. But if you have a Linux device, you could also run it on the web browser as well without installing. So first, download whichever is relevant for you. And once you're done installing, this is what the main page of Figma would look like. You'd need to make your own account before you can actually start using Figma. So before we get into the main part of how to use the Creator Kit, first let's get used to some of the Figma basics. So if you click on new design file, you create an untitled new design file, which is an empty canvas. You can name whatever you want to your canvas. Let's say my first project. Now this move tool is used to move around. You can use the center mouse button to pan around wherever you want. This is the frame tool, and the frame tool is basically your main canvas inside which you actually make your designs. So when you click frame tools, you get a lot of options in terms of what kind of frame do you want. Are you trying to make an Instagram post, which is a square 1080 pixels into 1080 pixels Instagram story, or are you making it for phones, tablets, desktops, or are you making it for a presentation? So when we design on Volume, we follow a 9:16 aspect ratio, or the Instagram story aspect ratio. So which is 1080 pixels in width and 1920 pixels in height. So if you click this, your first frame will be generated. So this is the place inside which you do all your designs. Now if you come to the next tool, which is the rectangle tool, if you drop down, you get other kind of options as well. So if you choose the rectangle tool, you can make whatever rectangular shape you want. If you hold the shift button, you can hold the aspect ratio and get a very uniform shape. Now if you want to change the colors, if you look into this right panel, make sure you've selected design. You go to fill, and you can fill whatever colors you want inside this plane. If you want to play around with the opacity of this, you can play around, and this is like 0% opacity, this is 100% opacity. So this is where you choose colors. Now if you want to get a little more fancy with the colors inside, you could go for something like a linear gradient, which is basically going from one color to zero transparency. Now if you don't want zero transparency on the other side, you could, let's say, put this at full transparency and go for another color. You can always play around with the shape of the rectangle. So let's say we make it bigger, and there are guidelines in Figma which allow you to align things to the center, to the left, to the right. Now you can also upload an image within this rectangle. For example, when you click image, you get this checker kind of box. Once you click on images, let's say you want this picture from Unsplash. If you open, it'll get filled inside the box. So, and let's say this image is more wide and you want to crop something out of this image. So then right now the image is put at fill option, but if you drop down and go to crop, you can move around however you want and place it within this box. If you want, you can make this box smaller, you can crop it however you want, you can make this bigger, and double tap anywhere outside to actually lock what you've actually designed. Now there's one more property called a stroke, which if you click the plus button, you have this light border outside. Now if you want to pan in and out, you click Control, use your mouse wheel up and down to pan in and out. Okay, so now talking about stroke, you can increase and decrease your border width. You can change the color of your stroke. You can make sure whether your stroke is inside or is it outside the image, or is it center, which means it's both inside and outside. So let's keep it inside for now. Let's keep this image over here. Now you have something called the text tool. So if you click this, you can type whatever you want. Let's say, okay, let me just close this. So if you hit the backspace or delete button, it gets deleted. So let's say my first design. Now you can increase the font size over here. You can go to whatever size you want. Now Figma has a few sizes given to you, but let's say you want to drag and make this however big you want. You can use this slider, go to the edge, make sure you go to the edge. It's a bit tricky to get it, but once you hold the edge, you can go all the way, swipe to the right and make it bigger, smaller, however you want. Here you have all the font weights. You can make it bold. You can choose a font. Let's say I'm going for this font called Helvetica. Now I can make a border for my header text. So for example, let's say make it somewhat like this. Now no matter how big I go, it'll always stay within the border. Yep, awesome. Now if you do Control C, Control V, you can copy the same design over here, and let's say we make this smaller, go for regular size. This is a byline. Awesome. Now if you want to create, let's say, another frame, you could either go over here, build a frame like how we designed before. You can click here. I'm just deleting this for now. Or if you want to copy this exact same frame, what you do is you go to the name of the frame, click it here, Control C, Control V, and it copies the exact same frame for you. Now if you see the numbering of the frame, you would have noticed that it was called Instagram Story 1. Now it's called Instagram Story 2. So let's say you want to number your slides chronologically. What you'd rather do is you can name whatever you want. So you could call it my design -1. Even if you don't put the hyphen, it's not an issue. It'll still Figma will still number it for you. So you do Control C, Control V. So it becomes my design 2. Again, if you do Control V, it becomes my design 3. I'm deleting this for now. So now let's say you want to change the background of this frame. So if you see in the right panel, you can see what all colors are there in the frame. So if you look at this color, which is your background color, which is white, if you drag the slider, you can change whatever color you want. Make sure it's a frame that's selected. So you can't directly click on this frame. To actually select this frame, you need to go over here and click the frame itself. So let's say we take this and let's say we want a gradient for this frame. So I'd go to linear, and let's start with something like white, and let's end it at something like blue, or let's say a light blue. So this way you can actually put any gradient. Now again, if you want to deselect it, click anywhere in the canvas and double click it. So now you've deselected it. So this is the basics of all the tools you need to actually know. So in a nutshell, if you know just these basics, you can legit create anything with Figma. And I'll be diving deeper into font hierarchy and color palette as we go deeper into the Figma Creator Kit, but these are the basic things that you need to know. Now you can definitely go around and play with these tools. So we played with rectangle, you can go with ellipse, and you can make it however you want. Now if you want to hold on and make it a circle, hold on to shift and it becomes a circle. Just make sure that when you're outside the canvas, your particular design will be outside. So over here you can see this hashtag is often the frame, is the symbol for the frame. So you can close it. Now this is outside. Now when you drag it inside the frame, so now it's still outside, but when you drag it inside, you can see how it gets cut off, like it doesn't come outside the frame anymore. This means now this image is a part of the frame. So right now, if you look at this circle is still not a part of the frame. So if you export this image, you're not going to get this circle. But once you put it inside, now it's a part of the frame. So when you export this image, you can actually get these final images. Now let's say these two design work which you have created, you want to actually export it. So you would select these two frames. So it's always nice to number this, put a name and put space number, because when you export it, you will get it in the exact order of how you actually wanted it to be numbered. So in this right side grid, if you go all the way down, you have an option called export. So 1x is more than enough, because at volume we accept 1080 into 1920 dimensions. So 1x is the perfect size. If you put anything around 2x, 3x, often what happens is the creator upload at volume will often reject it because the file size is too big. So you can export as a PNG, JPEG. A JPEG often has a very good compression. If you don't want any kind of compression, you can export as PNG itself. So I'm exporting these two images so it comes exporting 2 layers. So I can choose, let's say I want to save it in the desktop. Export, I create a new folder and I save it. So now if I go to the desktop, I get this folder, and inside the folder you can see my 2 designs are there. So in a nutshell, this is the very basics of Figma. This is probably all you need to know to actually have a good control over this. So anybody can learn Figma. At max it'll take you 1 hour. The real part is in choosing the right colors, the right fonts, and creating your sense of design to create something that's actually beautiful. So that's all for this tutorial, and let's meet in the next one. So this is the basics of everything that you need to know about Figma. Now let's go to the next part, which is actually downloading the Figma Creator Kit. Alright, so if you go to Volume's main website, which is www.volumestories.com, this is the landing page. If you want to download the Figma Creator Kit, you go to For Creators, scroll down, and you will find this section called Get Started with a Figma Creator Kit. So you can click download the Figma Creator Kit, tap here, and it will take you into a page. This is the community page of Figma, and you can actually duplicate any project into your own workspace in Figma. So you can click on get a copy, and what happens is this entire project that you're seeing, so this is the Figma kit in a nutshell. It's a very simple kit. There's nothing complex in it. It's often like Lego blocks. You just need to piece one template over the other and combine the right font and colors, and voila, you have something that looks pretty beautiful. So you click on get a copy. Awesome. Now I'm going for my main account on which I have my main Figma. So now what has happened is, in my draft section of Figma, I've created a duplicate of this entire project. So now I can do whatever I want in this project. So I can move around things. By the way, if you hold shift, it will move only in the same line. If you press Ctrl Z, it'll go back. That's undo button. Similarly, shift up and down, it'll move only in the Y axis. Awesome. So Control Z is a very important tool because often when you don't like something, you want to go one step back. So Control Z is always easier than finding the undo button. So coming back to the main Figma panel, if you go back to your files, you'll see that the copy which you have made is now there in your library. So this, you can edit whatever you want, you can do whatever you want in this Figma kit. So, and that's how you get the Figma kit on your Figma workspace. So in the next tutorial, what I'll be doing is I'll be going through in detail with this Figma kit, how you could actually play around with each of these things over here, how you could play around with the font, colors and templates to create something that's truly your own. So let's meet in the next tutorial.